We're in the middle of winter here, so it's definitely the fly tying season. So it's a good time to go through and tie the 3 flies that we showed in the video. The thing that I like in panfish flies is durability. I want to be able to catch a bunch of fish on the same fly without having to change, and that's one of the things that I like. I also like to be able to tie a bunch of them in an hour, so I don't want a real complicated pattern that takes me 45 minutes to make and then have a nice pike come and steal it on me. So let's go ahead and we'll tie the popper fly first. So the materials that I use for the panty popper fly are pretty easy to come by. I tie them on a stinger style size 10 hook. In this case I've got a Tiemco. The popper part of the fly is just craft store sheet foam, which you can get in any craft store, very inexpensive. I use some black saddle hackle. For the tail, I like squirrel tail, and I also put in just a little bit of crystal flash to give it some flash. And the body is just fluorescent chenille. In this case, we've got a little flash built into the chenille as well. So here's how you tie that fly. And the puppy in the next room was nice enough to join in on the video. So here we go. I just come down the hook, lay down a layer of thread all the way down the hook. Trim the thread. Take the squirrel tail. We're going to bind it in at the back end of the fly, and then I take and trim it to just behind the hook eye, and bind that all down. And what this does is it gives it a little thickness, but it also makes the tail much more durable. Wind that all the way back. And for the crystal flash, I'm only going to use a couple of strands. I usually use 5 or 6, so you can just take one piece and double it over. Actually, we'll use 4. And I'm going to lay that on top of the tail. Use the pinch method to keep it on top. And we're going to do the same thing that we did with the squirrel tail. Wrap that all the way forward. Go back over it. Okay. So the next thing, we're going to take our chenille, just take the end of the chenille so we can expose the string part. And bind that down. From there you have to prepare the strip of sheet foam. I usually use just under 1/4 of an inch for the panfish flies. And you take and make kind of like a long upside down V shape on it. And the point of it there, and we'll bind that down. When you're working with the sheet foam, it takes a little bit to get used to. If you pull too hard on the thread, you're going to cut into it. If you don't pull hard enough, it's not going to be durable. It'll fall apart. So you got to get kind of the feel for how hard you can wrap that. So we'll bring the thread forward, bring our chenille, a couple wraps of chenille forward, tie that off, we'll trim that, take a saddle hackle, not a huge one, and we'll strip the ends of that. Tie that in. Okay. I usually make about 2 to 3 wraps with that. Tie it off. Trim that. Then I take the saddle hackle and I pull it down on both sides. I want to make it like the beard on a classic salmon fly. I'll bind that all down. And this does a couple of things. Gives the fly maybe a little bit of a weed guard. And I like the way it comes out and looks at the end. So the next thing is bring the sheet foam over the top of that, tie it in place, and you gotta kind of get the feel for how much you can pinch this down. Try to go a little tighter on each wrap, and I make about 10 to 15 wraps right there, because this is the weak portion of the fly. You want to have plenty of wraps, and you'll see later that we're going to use plenty of glue, and we're going to whip finish the fly. Again, the puppy chimes in. Trim the thread, and then you're going to trim the front piece so it sticks up just over 1/4 of an inch. Trim it right square. And the last thing we have to do is put plenty of glue on this fly because we don't want it falling apart. So I glue over the top of all these threads. Big drop of glue in there. And then same thing on the bottom. I'm going to glue the head part and make sure I'm getting glue onto all the threads. And there you have it. Basic panty popper fly that will catch 20 to 30 bluegills or crappies before it starts falling apart. So it's very durable and it's very effective, and it's really easy to tie. One of the reasons that I went to the sheet foam is that with a hard-bodied cork popper, the fish will come up and knock them out of the way while they're trying to bite it. This thing is soft and chewy, so you end up hooking a lot more fish with this than you will with the little cork ones. So that's the basic panty popper.